Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On NHL Tuesday edition. Today, we are talking all about the Western Conference and the plague of injuries going around. And of course, we do have to talk about the Shane Wright saga here on Locked On NHL.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On NHL. I'm your usual host, Jess Belmosto, and today I am joined by Seth from Locked On Wild. Seth, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Always enjoy the opportunity to showcase the now Minnesota-renowned beard on the Locked On NHL show. So happy to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for coming to hang out with me today. Brett is on vacation, and we're just going to talk all about injuries, some Shane Wright stuff, and our usual game to watch for the week. And make sure you're subscribed to Locked On NHL wherever you're getting your podcasts. And of course, over on YouTube, where you can just hang out and be kind in the comments. But injuries aren't being too kind to people here on really throughout the entire NHL. But this is the Western Conference show. So should we start with the big one?
Yeah, we can kind of go down the list, I guess, in terms of severity of the injuries that we've seen. And I mean, I can throw in a couple of unknowns on the Wild perspective too.
Definitely. So Jamie Drysdale of the Anaheim Ducks is set to miss 4 to 6 months with a torn labrum. Ow, first of all. Secondly, what is your initial reaction based on how us at the network kind of ranked the Ducks this season?
It's funny because I don't know if anybody expected the Ducks to start as slowly as they have this season. You've got one of the bright stars in the NHL and Trevor Zegras and continuing to just be awesome. I will never get an opportunity to say enough good things about what Trevor Zegras is doing for the NHL. And so you have him, you've got some other really nice pieces to that mix. For whatever reason, it just hasn't worked that well so far this year. And up until they ran into the Toronto Maple Leafs, that's another story. But you look at it, and Drysdale was, I think, one of those pieces that they were putting into the mix, played pretty much an entire season last year, really kind of got his game put together last year. And so you're hoping to see him be able to build on that this year. But now not going to be able to play for the rest of the season, most likely 4 to 6 months, I think is the official timetable. And so in that instance, you just have to take, every bit of the development that you'd hoped to see, and you have to push it ahead by a year. So now not only is Drysdale next year going to have to try to get himself back into playing shape, get himself acclimated to playing at the NHL level, you're then going to have to wait once that's done. Then you can start to go back to some of the development stuff.
Absolutely. And I think that that's just kind of been one of the weird concerns about, the last 2, 3, well, I guess this draft class as well has been, the development and the pause in, a lot of collegiate leagues as well as other, junior leagues. But, what happens when you finally get, a nice full season underneath you and then pretty much out the gate you're benched again, and that is quite unfortunate for him and the Ducks.
Well, and there's the mental aspect of it too. When he eventually is ready to come back to the ice, that kind of thing sticks with you until the first instance. If it's a knee injury, the first time you do something to where you have to rely on that repaired knee or ankle or any part of your body, you have kind of a mental block in your head as to, okay, I need to be able to do this. Am I going to be able to do it? And
Right.
so these are all just the things that go into any sort of long-term injury. And so for Drysdale, first and foremost, you hope he's able to recover fully. And then after that, get back to where he was at in his development, which it's just, especially for young players, for any player, but for young players especially, it's just so unfortunate um, to see that kind of thing happen.
Absolutely. And especially with a team that is, up and coming and hopeful as the Ducks. And you just want good things to happen. Like, it's just been so hard for them. See them take flight and be successful. But we do have more injuries, unfortunately. Would you like to share what's been going on in Minnesota and kind of
Yeah, so we got a couple.
break some news, but it's
Well, it's
late.
just a couple of dinged up players. We had Ryan Hartman in Sunday's game against Chicago, tried to fight the just a few inches shorter than Zdeno Chara, and Hartman is not 6'6". And so he basically is being held at arm's length, and then he ends up getting pushed to the ice. He lands awkwardly, and it looks like he was favoring his wrist. So everybody that covers the team is like, "Oh, that's not good." I haven't heard an update. For what it's worth, he, according to Michael Russo after the game, didn't have any sort of a brace or anything. So he was talking to, I think he was talking to the trainer and a couple of members of the team after the game. So it's not anything pressing enough to where he was like taken out of the arena to go get checked out. So that's hopefully a good sign. And then Marcus Foligno didn't play on Sunday either. I'm going to be honest. I don't know what the injury with Foligno could be because watched him play on Saturday, watched him play throughout the course of the road trip, and didn't see anything that really stood out. So just some guys getting dinged up after the end of a long 5-game road trip. The Wild did make a roster move to accommodate for some of that, but that's because they just played 2 games this week, and then they head out on the road again. So my guess is they just want a body here, and
Mhm.
we'll reassess once they get to where we're going on the road again.
Yes, and that's the fun part of all of this is that you just get to reassess and reevaluate and see how things go. Speaking of Chicago, Seth Jones is out for about a month with a thumb injury. He ended up blocking a shot in the second period in a game against the Sabres, and he ended up finishing the game with nearly 24 minutes
Jeepers.
as his time on ice. Ow. I think that that's, a fair assessment there. I don't know. I blocked shots are always kind of I don't want to say scary, but they're definitely intimidating injuries because you don't know. I mean, I wouldn't want to stop a slap shot with any part of my body. Um, but, I think that this is kind of a tough hit for Chicago, obviously losing their top defenseman, but it's only a month.
Yeah, he'll be able to come back from it. And, you talk about sustaining the injury and continuing the game. Thank God for adrenaline. Like,
Yeah, that's what he said in his interview too. He was like, "Yeah, it was the adrenaline that got me through the game. That's
boy,
it."
oh boy, because depending on where you took that puck, there are some real tender spots on that thumb. And so, not ideal. But the thing I think with losing Jones is, and the Wild's got a chance to see this on Sunday, that decor has some good pieces, but overall, it's not really a world beater without Jones there at the top, and it may not be a world beater with him even in the lineup. But still, you want your top players to play, and so for a Chicago team that has come out of the gate and has surprised a lot of people, having him in the lineup helps. Having him out is going to hurt them, but I think if it were a blow on offense, it would be more. It would be harder for them to overcome it if it was like Patrick Kane or somebody, as opposed to Seth Jones.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw them kind of struggle when Jonathan Taves was out with his immune system injury illness. So, you know, again, it's just a month and it's unfortunate, but like Seth and I were talking before the show, it's still early. And I guess if you're going to have a month off, this is the time to do it. And that way you still can get back into the swing of things before I feel like things really kick up and kick off and take off for the season. But the least concerning injury, if you want to call it that, for this week is Jake Ottinger in Dallas. He is going to be reevaluated in a week. He left the Rangers game on Saturday, and basically the general manager said, "We'll reevaluate him." That's all you can do.
Yeah, and it's concerning too because he took himself out of the game, like to the point where he said, I can't do it. And so it's interesting because you go with like the ranking, the severity of these injuries, and Ottinger obviously is the one that's going to hopefully lead to the least amount of time missed.
Mhm.
That's going to be a tough one for them, especially if he misses a couple of games because Scott Wedgwood so far this year has not looked great. And so you're throwing him in. You really have to then try to win more high scoring games in the meantime because I think Wedgwood's goals against average is just under 5 in his time so far. So you got to hope that it's going to be a week, maybe 2 at the most. But yeah, that's going to be a big blow for Dallas if he ends up getting reevaluated and misses any length of time. That's a big one.
Absolutely. And I said this on my show earlier today, like I feel like the Stars defense will have to play at an even higher level because, you're comfortable with Jake Ottinger mm, mm, behind you. And you can say, oh, like, yeah, of course I want to stop the puck. But if something does get through, you have Jake Ottinger there.
Yeah, and the way he had been playing to start the season, it's one of those where you can have a really good goalie to bail out your defense.
Hmm.
But like you said, they're going to have to flip it now, and they're going to need the good defense to bail out Scott Wedgwood. It's much like what we saw from the Wild early on in the season. You
Right.
need that good defense to bail out those goalies, and we'll see if Wedgwood is up to the task.
Yeah, and then they don't even have enough cap space to call up Anton Hudobin, so they had to sign a different Matt Murray to an entry-level contract to have him because what is the cap space situation? And it is what it is there, but I said after the first round, Dallas would regress this year, just based on patterns that I have kind of seen from them in terms of making the playoffs and then just spiking and up and down. But I hope this isn't the first domino to fall for them in terms of that downward spiral. I think that the youth is on Jake Ottinger's side here. Everyone else on the team, not so much, but.
Yeah, it's tricky, and in just looking at the Central Division, it felt like Dallas was the one who had the longest shot to get
Mhm.
all of those guys who had career seasons to do it again. You had Nashville, you got the Wild, you've got St. Louis. All those teams, it felt like were safer bets to have those guys that had their best seasons ever come close to that.
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna say that you need Jamie Benn or Tyler Sagan to like go nuts, good luck with that.
Yeah, you have a better chance of starting fire underwater at that point because there's just I just there's no way. I no,
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
no, it's not. But coming up next, we are going to talk about Shane Wright and some Marco Rossi potential drama. We don't do drama. We don't do soap operas. This is hockey. But of course. We're here to fill you in. But before we do that, let me tell you about our friends at Simply Safe. If you've ever thought about securing your home with home security, but have been putting it off, you'll want to listen up. Right now, Locked On NHL listeners can order the #1 rated Simply Safe home security system for 50% off. This is their biggest offer of the year, and you won't want to miss it. Simply Safe was named the best home security system of 2022 by US News and World Report for the third year in a row. In an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology to exclusively Simply Safe customers to capture critical evidence and verify that the threat is real so you can get priority police response. Don't miss your chance to save on the only security system that I would recommend. Get 50% off on any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl today. This is their biggest discount of the year, so don't wait. That's simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl. There's no safe like Simply Safe. Seth, where can people find your podcast when they're not tuning in to Locked On NHL?
You're going to want to go to Locked On Wilds. It's nice we got all the socials to just be Locked On Wild. So you can find us on any platform, Twitter, Instagram, also your favorite podcast platforms, and then on YouTube as well. Make sure you tune in and subscribe so you don't miss out on any coverage of your favorite team here in the state of hockey. I know the Avalanche said it, that they're the state of hockey. Minnesota's the state of hockey.
I would have to agree. Minnesota's pretty neat. And you have a professional women's hockey team, and Colorado doesn't. So, sorry, Colorado. What on earth is going on in Seattle right now?
You know, it's dicey because Seattle is a really fun team. Shout out to our colleague, Erica L. Ayala. Real fun hockey team. They got Matty Beniers, who is probably going to win the Calder this year. He's great. It's a great team. I love what they're doing. They got to do something with Shane Wright because I understand there are two sides to this. On the one side, you want to make sure that Shane Wright is playing, is getting an opportunity to develop and grow. He's not going to do that sitting on the bench. So you got to get him in somewhere. On the coaching side of it, I can understand. I would imagine they want to see a little bit more from him to crack the lineup. But the Wilds had this issue early on with Marco Rossi, and they're still kind of working through it to where he was a healthy scratch after the first 3 games of the season went terribly wrong. At the end of the day, you got to just let these guys get into the lineup and run with the expectation that they are not going to be perfect. They're going to make some mistakes. They're going to have some growing pains, but they're not going to learn how to play at the NHL level by just sitting on the bench. Like,
Right.
you got to get them into the game, or you have to you got to let them go back down to the AHL, let them just dominate for the entire season, getting 25 minutes a night.
Right.
There really isn't an in-between. You got to give them the opportunity to figure it out or send them down. Those are the two options.
And the thing with sending him down is that he doesn't need waivers. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about someone coming to snatch him up. But he hasn't even cracked 10 minutes through 5 games. He has, I think the highest was like 8 minutes and 42 seconds, which, I mean, I don't think that is right for a player of his caliber that you want to develop, that everyone, number one, is excited to watch and excited to come to games for, but you want to eventually have that Beniers and Wright 1-2 punch. Why are you wasting time and not letting him at least get in some, bottom 6, middle 6 minutes. Like there's no reason for him to not be getting that. And I was reading a tweet earlier from, I forget who it was, but the coach, Dave Haxall, had said, "Oh, well, he's working on some stuff off the ice." Oh, okay. Like, what does that mean? Is he doing arts and crafts? What are two things can coexist? He can do, like, I would assume they do, like, media training and, like, personal development on top of professional development in terms of him just playing hockey, but for him to be scratched in all 3 games where his family had flown in from across the country, that's a different level of disrespect.
Yeah, and we're not talking about, because I know on the coaching side of things, coaches are measured by wins and losses in every sport. And so I
Mhm.
can understand if you're a team that is kind of on the fringe and is like, look, we got to make the playoffs this year, or I'm probably going to lose my job. And am I going to put that on a rookie or a proven NHL player who am I going to put that on them to get the job done, or am I going to put it on a rookie? You're going to go with the veteran player pretty much every time. But Seattle is not that. Seattle
No.
is not like a fringe playoff team. They are on, hopefully on the way back up after kind of a step back after their expansion draft. But this is not a team that is going to fight for a spot in the Pacific Division or in the Western Conference playoffs. You have to maximize development, 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 development.
I will scream that until I'm blue in the face because I feel like so many players don't reach their potential because they have these old school coaches that don't understand that you just don't fly out there and become, you don't reach your full potential in 2 games. But I'm really interested to see what happens next. I'm sure Shane Wright isn't happy. I can only imagine how,
I know
you know
Erica isn't.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I'm actually talking to her after we record, and I'm looking forward to hearing from her about this because it is just it's mind-boggling why you wouldn't play him. And I understand like there's some forward depth in Seattle now compared to where they were last year, but this doesn't feel that doesn't feel like a real excuse.
No. And the comments about it too are weird because I think Hackstall at some point here over the last week was asked about it and whether or not they were going to send him down or keep him up. And they said, well, we'd like to keep him up for the entirety of the year. It's like,
Then
what?
do
It,
something with
keep
him.
him up in the lineup.
Right. Like you are doing the organization a disservice if you keep him up and you don't play him. It's so foolish. It is so unfortunate.
Well,
I
yeah.
just
And the whole thing, it's like you have a player on your roster, and I don't understand why you wouldn't want to at least know, because the odds of him not panning out
Mhm.
are low. But why would you go through an entire season and be like, geez, we really don't know what we've got with him, so this year we're going to have to try to see. Play him. If it works out, you've got Beniers, you've got Wright, and I think we're all expecting that it will. But it's just so much better to know and have that ease, that
Right.
peace of mind of, hey, we've got 2 really good players to build this team around. As opposed to next year, it's like, we know Matty Beniers is a stud. We don't know what we have in Shane Wright. I can't imagine going through a full year and
Right.
just doing this again.
Right. And then so I imagine that he shows up to the practice facility and however they announce, the scratches or whatever, and he's probably just like, "Okay, see my name. Like, what what's the point? Why am I even here? If I'm just going to sit in my suit up in the press box. What is my reward for any of this?" Like, he probably took a hit to the ego and confidence when he dropped from number 1 to number 4, and now the team that believed in him is just scratching him. They're not
Yeah.
using him.
And this is the instance where you see the general manager come in and be like, you're going to play him. Like,
Yeah.
he's not going to sit the whole year. So I don't know if those conversations have already happened, but I would imagine that at a particular point, Ron Francis is going to come into Hackstall's office and is going to say, let me see your lineup card for today's game. So I'm going to make some changes.
It's got to be coming soon if it hasn't already happened. The Flames play Seattle tomorrow, and I don't know. I don't know what what to expect from that, because I don't know. It feels wrong not to have, you know, Beniers and Shane Wright.
Well, especially what's supposed to be such a huge part of your future. Like,
Right.
if you have a brand new car sitting in the driveway, you want to know that it works properly and that everything runs smoothly. It has all the bells and whistles, everything you
Mhm.
want, as opposed to just letting it sit in the driveway for months and then you go to start it and it doesn't work and you're like,
Value.
how did this happen? What's
Right.
happening here? So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, some self reflection might be important here for coaching. And hopefully, this is one of those opportunities for the general manager to step in and be like, you're going to play him, or
Yeah.
that hot seat's going to get cranked up a little bit. Maybe.
Please do it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that. And of course, go listen to Erica at Locked On Kraken. She's fantastic and can't say enough good things about her. Coming up next, we are going to wrap up with our game of the week, or I guess games of the week, because there's two of us. So make sure you stick around. And as always, thank you all for tuning into Locked On NHL. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube. And just make sure you're subscribed. We're here for you Monday through Friday. Who doesn't love a good group? We're all a good bunch of people over here. So just support us, please.
Every like, every subscription,
Every
they all count.
comment, even if you dislike a video, it still helps us. So, but don't do that. Be nice. Be nice, please. We're trying to encourage more positivity here on the internet, especially in like the hockey Twitter universe. But ahead of today's show, I sent you the outline and I said game of the week. Just something good to watch, or something that might be very lopsided. Who do you have?
So I'm gonna do. I've got two games that I've
Oh,
got narrowed in on, and they are both for Thursday night.
okay.
We're starting with Bruins Rangers. Bruins are off to a torrid start. Wild had a chance to contend with them to start off their road trip. Ended up losing in overtime with like 10 seconds left in the OT period. And the Wild also lost to the New York Rangers to start the year. That didn't go well. These are two really good teams, storied traditions for both of them. And, you can't beat the like old school franchises going toe to toe, especially this early in the season. So that one, 100% is on my list, and this is where I'm thankful that you get the multicast. So
Yeah.
I'll have Kraken Wild on one TV, and then I will have Bruins Rangers, and also One of the surprises to start the season, the New Jersey Devils taking on the Edmonton Oilers.
That's what I have too. I think that could be a
It's
really fun game.
it's a it's a team that I think has surprised a lot of people this year. They just throttled their opponent in their last game, I think 7-1. And
Yeah,
oh yeah, that was the Goudreau game.
yeah it was.
Whoops,
Well,
didn't
so
go
much.
well.
Yeah, no. And his family, like he's from Jersey, so I'm sure his entire family and his in-laws were there. That's
100%.
humiliating.
Yeah, anytime you hang, I mean, as a team that has given up 7 goals twice this year, uh, anytime you give up 7 to an opponent, it's not great. Anytime you lose 7-1, it's not. It's much worse.
Yeah.
So
That's
that should be a fun one because the Oilers are a fun team every year with McDavid, with Draisaitl, with everything that they have on that roster. And so those two going toe to toe is going to be fun. So you have the punch counter punch of Bruins Rangers and Oilers Devils.
definitely. I picked the Devils in Edmonton just because I think that both teams are pretty fast, and I think that who doesn't love a good high pace hockey game? I think that Edmonton can really just I don't want to say outplay any of their opponents, but definitely outskate. And it'll be interesting to see how New Jersey approaches the game, especially with the confidence they probably have after being able to score 7 goals in one game. And then I want to see who Edmonton starts in net, if it's Jack Campbell or if they're going to go with Stuart Skinner. I think that they know that it's pretty much gonna be in every other game or something like that, pretty much splitting the starts. But I don't know. I thought going into this season that Jack Campbell really had that number one goalie role. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out for them and how that goes for the season as well as the playoffs, because I think that could be a real downfall for them.
It could, and it's just that would be so frustrating for that franchise, considering that we just got to see a series in which Mike Smith gave up goals from like 3/4 of the way down the ice.
Yeah.
And so you go out, you address the goaltending, and you think you've done it in a way that is going to take you over the top.
And
And
they
so
haven't.
far, Campbell just hasn't done it.
No, he had a nice warm welcome to Edmonton. I think he gave up 4 goals at one point, like one of the first games of the season. And then he in the first Battle of Alberta earlier this month, 2 goals and he was out. So, and then they started Skinner in the next game. So, I don't know. I don't know. It's quite the time to be Edmonton, I guess. I don't know. Just go Flames.
Just give up less goals.
Yeah,
That's when in doubt, just give up less goals. It worked for the Wild. It can work for the Oilers too.
exactly. And we talked about earlier with the Jake Ottinger injury, the defense just might need to tighten it up a little bit more.
Just help them out
When
a
Yeah,
little.
just a little, especially when Jack Campbell's in net. I mean, he's used to playing in front of Toronto, so it's really not that much of a difference. Whoops, sorry everyone.
Somebody had to say it.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much is actually no, there's been more time in between. I was gonna say pretty much the same, like Zach Hyman, Cody Cece, but I don't think Jack Campbell was there.
That I do not know for
I
some
don't know.
reason.
I don't know. Anyways, it's just former Leaf City up in Edmonton. But Seth, thank you so much for joining me today on, I almost said Western Conference Wednesday, but we are no longer Western Conference Wednesday. So tune in to Locked On Wild. Seth, plug away everything, your personal, your socials, whatever you'd like.
So if you're looking for the ultimate tweeting experience during Wild games, you're going to want to go to my personal Twitter account at Seth TOUPS. Lots of memes, lots of funny tweets, especially when the Vikings are playing on Sundays. Then Locked On Wild, we have some fun things that we do throughout the week, including the Locked On Lineup Challenge. Just anointed our Locked On Wild Player of the Month for the month of October. No spoilers, but Matt Boldy, he's so good.
I love
So
him.
you can see all that on our social accounts, and then of course you can follow us by just typing in Locked On Wild on your favorite podcast platform, on YouTube, you name it, we've got it, and we're having a lot of fun with it.
Well, thank you so much. And make sure you check out Locked On Wild after you listen to today's episode of Locked On NHL. And you can find me at Jess Belmosto on all social media platforms. And of course, Locked On Flames, wherever you'd like to listen, your preferred listening experience, and on YouTube as well. And yeah, go wild. I hope that Marc-Andre Fleury just is able to, stay stable in
Yeah,
between the pipes.
third star of the week for the NHL this week. So
I saw that. I'm very proud of him after his rocky start to the season.
he's doing
So,
great now.
yes, we do love that. And you can make sure to follow along with Flowers' road to redemption after a crummy start at Locked On Wild. Bye, everyone.